Okay, I'm sure we'll have others jumping in, and I'll just have to let them in. But so welcome everyone. I just wanted to put some new type of webinars together. I know a lot of you have done the ones I've done myself before, but I want to start bringing in different modalities to just talk about other methods out there for alternative healing. There's so many out there, and they can give people, so much relief that I don't want to just focus on strictly with what I do. I want to be able to share other methods too, and bring in other people's stories. So um, Lisa and I got introduced. I had sent out like a bulk email, and she responded to it, and I noticed that she was an author. So I looked up her book. And I bought the book and was extremely impressed by some of the stories and the experiences and her views on different ways to heal. And she brings a different view to this because I've never gone through a lot of the things that other people have gone through, and Lisa has. So she can kind of share that story with you as well, too, a side of this that I can't bring to it. I've worked with a lot of people for healing from a lot of different things, from physical disease to past emotional pain and um, which is just as important to clear as the physical aspect of things. But again, I just wanted to bring in some different modalities into this. And so this is the first one I put together. Luckily, Lisa agreed to join me here today. And I've got others coming up where uh, acquaintance of mine is a Qigong practitioner. So we're going to bring in that type of energy work too, because that's really what everything does come down to. It comes down to our energy. And how we're using that energy and directing that energy. And that's going to determine our outcome. And all these different modalities can really play in and kind of compound on each other to really build on that energy and increase that vibration within us to put us on that path to healing. So that's my whole goal in this because I truly believe that there's four pillars to healing. And if you hit all of those, you're going to heal from whatever physical or emotional issue you have. And that's, belief. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to believe what you're doing can, in fact, lead you on that path to healing. And I'll go into these in a little more detail when Lisa's done, but belief is the big one. And then desire, you have to have the desire to heal from these things. And it seems like a no-brainer that everybody would want to, but sometimes when bad things happen to us, we get a secondary gain or a secondary benefit from it. More people are giving us attention, showing us love, whatever it is, that secondary benefit can really prevent us from moving on and getting to the place of health and healing that we want to get to. So the desire is really important. And then the focus, we have to focus in on exactly the outcome we want, not, just general terms. We want to make sure we're focused, laser focused on the outcomes we want. And that's, obviously those that have worked with me know that, we focus in on exactly what you're feeling, where you're feeling it, how it's making you feel. But we want to be laser focused on the outcomes we want. And then we have to have the expectation of the outcome. Without the expectation of the outcome, nothing's going to work. Um, our subconscious mind takes us where it thinks it's supposed to. So we have to set that expectation of the outcome. We have to keep our focus on that expectation of the outcome, as intently as we can. Because if we do that and if we create those positive mental images of the outcomes we want, the subconscious mind really has no say so in whether it takes us there or not, as long as it clearly understands what our expectation of our outcome is. So those are kind of the main bullet points that all of these sessions that I'm going to put together are going to cover, and just making sure that you're aware of, where your focus is and what your expectations are, and making sure that, you have that burning desire to get past whatever it is, whatever type of healing that needs to take place, and that you believe that you're going to get past this and improve. So that's what these are all going to be about from my end, but I'll quit talking here and just turn it over to Lisa so she can kind of share her experiences and what she's discovered along her path of healing. And then I'll be back to kind of go in a little bit more detail, and we'll take it from there. I'm going to go ahead
Well,
and mute myself here. It's all yours, Lisa.
oh, thanks so much, Tim. And also feel free to jump in if you have questions as I'm moving through. But as Tim mentioned, we basically connected via email. I became familiar with the work that he was doing and saw that he was providing really powerful hypnotherapy services, particularly to cancer patients. So my story is I'm a cancer thriver. And I prefer the term thriver over survivor because nobody just wants to survive. We want to thrive in life. And it kind of goes back to what Tim was saying. We have to have that desire to do so, right? That will to live. And so in 2017, I was faced with a really, life-shaking diagnosis of base of tongue cancer. And so professionally, I am a communicator. I'm a speaker, author, um, coach, consultant, and I basically teach marketing with integrity, like for my real day job until I wrote Spiritual Sugar, which is taking me into new directions, and we'll get into all of that. But it was very fascinating to me because I'm like, oh my gosh, really? So here I am with throat cancer, and I could actually lose my voice forever. And this is how I make a living. It was very scary. And so I dove deep into all kinds of modalities. I'm one that always questions everything. And if I could have you walk away with one key takeaway, it would be to always get a second opinion. Always. Um, I was initially kind of ignored by my primary physician. And this is not to bash on any specific person, because I believe that all of our practitioners within the Western medical industrial complex are kind of confined within a specific business model. That's what medicine has evolved into, right? So they only have a certain amount of time that they can spend with us to talk to us about what's going on. And oftentimes that's anywhere from 6 to 8 minutes. And it's pretty difficult to really dive in and find out what's going on with someone in that short amount of time. At this particular instance, and this person is no longer on my healing team, we can hire and fire doctors, just so you know. She was convinced that I had an abscess tooth. And I was convinced that I absolutely did not, because I actually felt whatever was going on growing and moving in my throat, which was a really super creepy feeling, just so you know. I'm just going to be transparent about that. And so I had some challenges with her because she wasn't really hearing me and wasn't really able to, she wasn't afforded the time to slow down to really dig in because of the way the systems are set up. So long story short, finally, she actually asked me if I thought I had cancer, and I was not happy about getting that question because a little thing about, never ever going to medical school precluded me from making an official diagnosis. Now, I knew something big was going on. I knew I needed to definitely heal with love, and that was what I focused on. And I want to back up a little bit and talk about the importance of the message about healing with love, because 2 years prior to receiving the diagnosis that I eventually received of base of tongue throat cancer, I had received a divine download, what I call a divine download. I have a very strong faith, and it's not an organized religion faith. It's just a me and the creator and nature kind of faith. And you can believe whatever you want, and there's no judgment for me, for anyone, for what you want to do. But I was sitting in my office and I got this download that said, you're going to write a book. It's going to be called Spiritual Sugar, and it's going to be about healing with love. And I freaked out. I'm like, what? I'm not a healed person. How am I going to do this? You've got me teaching marketing with integrity, which is an oxymoron in that industry. So, hey, I've been doing that for a couple, well over a decade at that point. What do you expect me to do? So I journaled about it and set it aside. And then while I was going through all of the things that I was going through with trying to troubleshoot what was actually happening with me, and just sitting in my office in inquiry, I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is my body giving out on me? What the heck am I going to do here? And I got another message that said, don't worry, you will heal this with love. And so in true kind of crazy entrepreneurial fashion, I went and bought the domain name. I went and looked at my journal entry, saw that the title of the book that I was supposed to write 2 years prior was called Spiritual Sugar. I'm like, oh, interesting. So this might have something to do with what's going on now. And I ignored it. So here I'm getting shaken into something big. But I bought the domain name and I started building out the brand while I was healing. I knew it was part of my purpose and my mission. And sometimes when we experience these traumatic events, that's exactly what we're meant to do. is to learn and share and grow and then share with others. So as Tim mentioned, there's a lot of different things and modalities that we can use. And of course, hypnotherapy was one of them for me. I did some timeline hypnotherapy with a dear friend. I've since had a session with Tim that was magnificent and really released some things. I didn't even realize that I still had some things to deal with. And I was sitting there and there were just tears streaming down my face. I wasn't actually crying, but it was a massive release. And so the power of our subconscious mind is so huge, and having the right person to guide you through these processes is just it's so vital in everything we do. But that was just one of the many modalities that I kind of dug into. And in my book, which is called Spiritual Sugar, The Divine Ingredients to Heal Yourself with Love, I overview over 30 of these. I call them, non-traditional modalities, but honestly, it's just ancient healing wisdom. It's information that has been there at our fingertips for a very long time, but we're not always taught about it. So there were singing bowl meditations, which is one of my absolute sound bath therapy is one of my favorites. I mean, just the vibrations of that alone gives your body such resonance, and it resets your cells and your soul, I believe. Definitely there's scientific data about the cells. I can't really speak to the soul. I don't know that we've ever really been able to scientifically capture a whole lot about that, but I know it makes mine feel better. So that's one of the things that I did. And I did a complete lifestyle reset. I love wine. And I joke that I quit my 4 favorite food groups: coffee, wine, chocolate, and cheese, cold turkey, and all processed sugar, because my body needed a reset. Now I have introduced some of those back in. I do have a glass of wine on occasion, but everything in moderation, right? It's a challenge to keep things balanced. And I ended up having surgery. They wanted me to do chemo and radiation. I think it's important to speak to that. I chose not to do that. I was divinely guided that that was not in my best interest. The research that I have done makes me believe that that was a really good choice. And in 2022, when I published the book, I was declared no evidence of disease, or, cancer free. And that's the 5-year marker that in the cancer world that they use to determine survival rate, right? And what's interesting about that number is they typically don't follow you past that. And the stats around survival when you've had chemo and radiation beyond 5 years are not super impressive. Not to say that you can't, because I want to be really careful here. I've had friends who have had chemo and radiation and they're doing well. They've had some have come up with secondary cancers because of the chemo, because that is one potential outcome. But the mindset of the people that I know who have actually gone on beyond 5 years was that they really embodied this as true medicine and healing, and they integrated a lot of these other modalities with Western medicine. So I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm saying a combination of everything helped. I mean, clearly without the surgery, I would not be having this conversation with you today. And had I listened to that doctor that's no longer on my healing team, we would not be having this conversation today. Because what happened is the tumor was growing so fast, it was cutting off my airway. So there was no doubt about it. I had to have surgery. And so I had a transoral robotic surgery, which means they put a little robot down my throat. They took out the margins and the rest of the residual of the tumor from when I had the biopsy to ensure that wouldn't come back. I also had something called a neck dissection, where they did do an incision on my neck, and they took out some lymph nodes to make sure that the cancer had not jumped the blood and brain barrier. And so thankfully it hadn't. Intuitively, I knew that, but I didn't want to sit in inquiry wondering like, oh my gosh, is there actually still cancer in my body? And I think the most important thing about all of this is that by using an integrative approach, by looking at a bunch of different modalities, hypnotherapy, sound healing, nature, that was key. Being in nature and grounding was so huge for me. And I think it's really big. In fact, one of the messages that I got when writing the book was that, look, we've been through a rough time these past several years for, humanity. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of people who've lost hope. And I was told, lead people back to nature. Because once you get out into nature, not only do you feel better, but it's clear when you watch anything growing and things blooming and the miracle of nature that there's something much bigger than us at play. Now, can I tell you exactly what that is? No, I don't actually think anybody really can. That's another topic that we don't need to get into, really. We want to talk more about, what we need to do individually to heal. And I suggest trying a lot of different modalities. There are some philosophies that say, you should only just stick to exactly what your doctor has to say. And I say, actually question everything and get a second opinion. If I hadn't questioned my doctor, I would not be here having this conversation with you. And so that is a concern to me. It's a big concern to me. I did tapping. I did, oh my gosh, all kinds of different modalities. Um, Aligning of the chakras, all kinds of things that many people would say are, woo-woo or strange, but there's actually, these are quantum physics principles. There is scientific information that can back this and stats if you want to dig deeper and look. But in the book, that's why it was important to me to share all of these different modalities with people. And it was really important for me to let people know that they have to create their own recipe. This was another thing that I think is huge, because I was working with a book coach when I was writing my book, and she kept saying, oh no, we want it to be the divine recipe to heal yourself with love. I'm like, oh no, I can't give anybody a recipe, because everybody is different. Every cancer is different, and it would be completely negligent if I were to say I knew exactly what would bring everyone to the point of having no evidence of disease, because that's not true. You have to find that for yourself. And I think going back to what Tim was saying in his kind of 4 key areas that are required for healing, it is, that will to live. It is being here and really wanting to be here, and actually realizing that no one is going to heal you but yourself. So we can work with practitioners, we can work with Tim, and he can guide us through and help our subconscious begin to embrace our healing. But, just like when people read my book, they have transformations and things happen. I'm not healing anyone. I'm activating their own inner potential to heal, period. And that's by sharing information. And it's by, just being real. And I think the thing is that we need to have conversations like this so that people know there are other options. There's something I think that you've all heard of called the placebo effect, right? So people can give you a sugar pill instead of a medicine when they're doing a clinical trial of a new medicine. And oftentimes the people who get the placebo do better sometimes, right? It's amazing. On the flip side, there's something called a nocebo. And that is the exact opposite. It gives you no hope. And many times when we are given an expiration date and we just believe that the doctors who are giving us this are the experts, and no one ever really knows that, right? We can decide, and we do have free will. And of course, there are some things that are outside of our control, I imagine. However, I believe that if we have the will, we can certainly find a way. And one of the most scary stats to me, it's not really a stat because I don't know the percentage, but scenarios, is that there have been cases where people were given that expiration date and they had actually been misdiagnosed, but the power of the mind is so strong that they then checked out on that date. And so I don't say this to frighten anyone, but I say this to say, empower yourself with knowledge and tools that will help you heal. And do not let people roll you into fear. We are living in a fear-based society in many ways, but we have the opportunity to roll into that love vibration and really activate that and elevate it and give ourselves that opportunity to heal, because we were all born with these natural abilities to heal. We just are not necessarily taught all the tools that we need because, well, there's so many reasons. I can't even get into that, but that's a big one. So that's a little bit about my story. The book came out on 11/22 of 22. It was super important for me for it to come out on the 5-year anniversary of me being declared no evidence of disease from that specific cancer. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I like to tell people that everything is an opportunity to heal, including a cancer diagnosis. And it is not necessarily a death sentence. We are told that it is, but it's not necessarily a death sentence. People have done well on chemo and radiation. People have done well without it. People have done well with just surgery. There are so many different scenarios. People have just suddenly had miraculous disappearances of all evidence of disease. Although I believe they were doing something, right? I think that that's very true. It doesn't just happen spontaneously. And I want to share that one of my go-to resources was a book called Radical Remission by Dr. Kelly Turner. She's an incredible woman. She used to be a cancer counselor. And what she saw is she was hearing about all these spontaneous remissions. And she's like, this is not spontaneous. So she went back and got her PhD in cancer research and wrote the book Radical Remission, where she identified 9 key areas that people use to heal themselves. And only 2 of them were tangible. The rest were more of a spiritual nature. And so that gives us another indication of the power of our mind and how that can really help. So she's since released another book. She's amazing, but her work inspired me so much. And she featured my book in her newsletter, which was super cool. And I'm going to be on their podcast coming up pretty soon too. So I'll be sharing a little more about my story, what I went through. And within the book, there's 3 sections: the awakening, which is my story and my journey with cancer. And it doesn't mean that it's all about cancer. It's really not. It's truly about healing with love, because I want to empower people with tools. And speaking of tools, the second part is called spiritual tools. So there's over 30 modalities that I overview there. I tried them all. You can pick and choose, create your own recipe for healing, whatever that looks like for you. But there's lots of great ingredients to choose from. And then finally, I've identified 7 spiritual sugar principles, or areas where you may want to choose to fortify your life in those areas. And it's pretty simple. It starts with your faith. It starts with yourself and your family, your mind, your body, your environment, including your community, your creativity, and your intuition. And I found when we fortify all of those areas, it actually helps boost our immune system as well. So do the healing modalities that I've included in the book. So that's, kind of it in a nutshell as far as my story goes. And I'm happy to take questions if Tim's open to that, or if he has any, whatever you'd like to talk about. But truthfully, my book is my love letter to humanity. I am just so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful that there are people like Tim doing the good work in the world to help others activate their own healing. And I love the name of his business, because I'm all about that. And we were just very, very aligned when we connected. And I'm honored to be here with all of you today, and just to be here as a testament to what's possible.
Absolutely. And I just want to touch on that placebo nocebo effect, because that's something that I see so often. And that's why one of the first things I usually tell people when I start working with them is, accept the diagnosis, but reject the prognosis. That's just somebody else's opinion. Because it's, when somebody starts a treatment for whatever they're going through, the first thing they do is jump on Google and look for those side effects and what's it going to do to me. And the minute that happens, that nocebo effect kicks in, and when we have that expectation of an outcome, we're likely going to experience exactly what those side effects are or symptoms are. So it's much easier for me to help somebody not experience them ever, rather than get rid of them once they have them, because now they know it's there.
It's so true, and it's so important. And I was just blown away to hear of these different stories of people who really, the power of the mind being that strong, of getting that expiration date and it not even being correct. And they're like, okay, that's it, we're done. But that again goes right back to that will to live, and that having a bigger purpose, and, you know, really believing that these things are possible. And it takes communities like these to come together and share the information and knowledge, so that even more people can be empowered with information that saves lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And truthfully, all healing is self-healing, and that applies to conventional medicine as well, because if somebody doesn't have the belief that that's going to work, it won't work either. And oftentimes Western medicine is actually treating the manifestation of the way the disease expressed itself, not really the root of the disease at all. And you can say that with cancer by, taking out a tumor or whatever. They took the tumor out, but we didn't really treat the root of the the issue. Um,
So true, and that's where all these other modalities come into play. I mean, not to get too extremely woo-woo with everyone, but when I'm looking at, okay, oh my goodness, I had throat cancer. What does that mean? Well, if I look at the chakra system, it's the throat chakra. And what does that mean? What are you saying? What are you not saying? Was there some suppressed or repressed trauma that I needed to address? And the answer was absolutely yes. And so I went in and I did that work. But, doing the work is not for the faint of heart. You have to be very committed and dedicated to yourself and to self-care. And it takes a lot. And I'll tell you, I slip up. I mean, the eating thing, I love cheese. So yeah, sometimes I still have cheese. I make sure it doesn't have the yellow dyes and weird stuff in it. And I found a really great local creamery that has organic cheese, so I make better choices and I still allow myself to enjoy some things, but we do have to be very careful about what we are fueling our bodies with, because the processed food out there is just basically packaged poison. I mean, it's not good for us at all. And it's unfortunate that it is approved by the FDA. It really truly is. I mean, that's a travesty. I wish they would kind of re-examine things, but I don't know that I personally alone could win that battle.
sure. No, and what you said about repressed things, anybody that works with me knows that I'm a big believer that all disease um, has an emotional root behind it. Regardless of what it is, it's the disease of the way it found to express itself physically in the body, because your body is nothing more than your mind's robot. It has no ability to make any decisions in the body. All those decisions are made in the mind. And we know that, when we bury trauma or hold on to anger, any of these things, that it can physically alter our DNA. And we can have these gene sequences turned on or off based on, that past trauma or what we're dealing with. If we try and shove it down and not deal with it, and not saying having to relive any bad trauma, giving the subconscious mind the permission to take whatever positive learning it can take from that situation. And sometimes it can be really hard to find a positive thing to take from it, in which case, fine, don't. But a lot of times we can at least take something positive out of even traumatic events in our past. Just direct our subconscious mind to take those learnings and then release the emotion behind it, so we're not keeping this lump within our subconscious mind. I refer to it a lot as, you get something in your eye and your eye starts watering, and the tear production increases, and maybe it starts swelling and it gets blood shocks. The mind's trying to send more blood to the area to try and heal it, and then maybe some pus starts forming. But as soon as that debris is dislodged from your eye, it'll go back to normal. And a lot of disease, you can kind of, there's a lot of bodies of research how different things we tend to hold on to as people manifest in the body and where they manifest in the body. So a lot of what I do is just trying to dislodge that debris from the subconscious mind to let it go, because if you Google any disease, for the most part, the first thing if you Google like what causes blank disease, fill in the blank, first thing you're likely going to read is, well, we don't know exactly what causes it. Um, so all we know is how it manifests. We don't know what the true root cause is. And that's why I'm so adamant about, trying to go back and just release these things from the subconscious mind, so that it can stop doing what it's doing, so it can return us back to that health. Maybe some things can't be reversed, but they can certainly be stopped from getting any worse, from going any further. Um, and I absolutely believe that, most of my clients use a combination approach, right? They are going through traditional Western treatments, but luckily have discovered that, by activating their mind, they can make their experience a whole lot easier by doing that at the same time. I do work with clients that are not using any Western medicine at all. If you work with me, you know that I don't give any advice on that whatsoever. I believe somebody's healthcare choices are extremely personal, and you have to do what works best for you. Um, but you absolutely, and that's why I think it's so important to explore all these other modalities that can really enhance the healing that needs to take place. And you'll find that more on the holistic end, right? When we say, here's what I can do, here's what I can help guide you in helping to accomplish, but I don't claim to be the one stop that's going to create these miraculous healings within you, because only you can do that. And the more natural things you can throw at it, the better. It's when you're talking about holistic things, it's things we do together, not something that's done to you. I know the language that the mind likes to use to be directed. I know how to direct it in certain ways. I know how to make it stop giving you pain or nausea, or start directing you on the path to healing. But you're the one that's actually doing those things. I'm just giving your subconscious the suggestions, and it's by you accepting and believing and going through those bullet points. You believe, you have that desire, you're focused on what I'm telling you and directing you to do, and we set that expectation of the outcome. And just by doing those things, you accomplish exactly what we set out to do. But I do think it's important to explore as many modalities when you're trying to heal from something as possible, because it's going to give you the best overall results, overall.
I totally agree. And I really love that you reiterated that, you're a catalyst to activate healing within the individual. There's a lot of healers out there who claim they're going to heal you. And what I say to that is run,
Mhm.
just run. Because we all have, again, the natural ability to heal. It does need to be activated, but another person isn't necessarily going to heal you. There are some occasions where I have actually experienced people who do have the hands-on healing touch, and they can help accelerate the healing. They're not completely healing you, though. You have to be open to it, right? And it's, again, back to that mindset that Tim was talking about. It's really, really important to be open to the possibilities. And if we were to just follow the standard narrative and think, oh my gosh, I have cancer, this means I'm going to die, or this means I have to have chemo or radiation or surgery. None of those things are an absolute. You will know intuitively what's right for you. I mentioned I've had some really dear friends who have gone through the whole chemo route, and they basically meditated and visualized it as being this healing elixir going into their body, and they've had really excellent results. So these things can happen. I just had to follow my own intuition and guidance, and my body is super sensitive to things. And I was like, yeah, it's probably not a good idea for me to do that. So at this point, I'm grateful because here I am. Um, but for some people, it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and basically most of the holistic methods out there, it's dealing with energy in the body. Even what I do, even though it's all mind based, it's still that energy, trying to align that energy with that expectation of the outcome, whether you're doing yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or tapping or um, whatever modality you're using. It really almost all goes back to energy and directing that energy, um, and increasing our vibrational frequency to that place of, love and gratitude and forgiveness, which gratitude and forgiveness are two of the big ones too, to raise that frequency in you. Even on the days when it's really hard to feel grateful for just about anything, um, if you can find a way to be grateful for the smallest things, it'll actually raise your, vibrational frequency and put you on that better path to healing. So, stress and fear, worst things we can do, but almost unavoidable when we're diagnosed with something that can be life changing. But once that stress and that fear take hold, or that anxiety takes hold, we start getting depressed, then we're flooding our bodies with these unhelpful hormones that actually lead us to that place, the exact opposite place of healing. So controlling that and just grounding in the moment, even though it can be really difficult depending on what you're dealing with, and what disease, or just, it doesn't even have to be disease. It's that, past emotional pain that we hold on to. And when I'm dealing with somebody with even, you know they're not diagnosed with anything, but they've got this anxiety and depression in there. And emotional pain is something we need to get back to, because that absolutely can lead to physical disease, because your mind is going to want to manifest that in some way to get you to deal with it, and release it, because it thinks, you're holding on to it for a reason. So it keeps doing what it's doing.
So true. And there's really a lot of simple things that we can do to reset our energy. I mean, one of the things that I write about in the book is just taking your shoes off and going and standing in grass barefoot or on the ground barefoot, right? It's called grounding or earthing or whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's just connecting to nature. You're connecting to the Schumann resonancy, which is the heartbeat of the earth. It's helping to reset your circadian rhythm, which is our natural internal clock that gets whacked out of context all the time by many things. So it's as simple as going outside and standing in the grass and breathing that we can reset and then really roll into that gratitude and also that forgiveness piece. And I'm really glad that you brought up the forgiveness piece, because there is a master teacher called Master Sha, and he teaches the Tao. And one of the things that he talks a lot about is how important it really truly is to have a practice of forgiveness, not only for anything that you've done, but things that our ancestors have done, because there are so many things that energetically impact us that we might not be consciously aware of. But once we start learning about these different modalities and these different things that we can do to activate healing within ourselves, it's a good idea to try them. And you'll know if something resonates with you or doesn't, right? You don't, if you take a look at the book and some of the things that I recommend, and it's not even a recommendation, it's like, hey, I tried this, try it, you might like it. Maybe you won't. There's some things that, I don't do tapping all the time. Do I think it's super interesting and fascinating and powerful, and can it work? Absolutely. But my personal toolkit that I use on a regular basis is more about prayer, meditation, nature, singing bowls, a few modalities. And I do, hypnotherapy. I do some healing sessions, things like that. I love acupuncture, but it's not all of them at once. And it's certainly not to say that you have to incorporate all 30 things into your life. I don't know how that you could do that on an ongoing basis, but I wanted to heal. So I was like, I'm going to try it all. And that
Right.
only scratched the surface. There's so many things I forgot to put in the book. I was telling Tim, I probably need to write another one. I've since started learning about German new medicine and some other things that I really wasn't aware of that can be very helpful. And I don't think that one modality is the end all be all or the answer either. I think that we can take pieces from them, again, creating our own recipe to heal. And there's a lot of people who are purists. They'll say, oh, no, if you're doing, if you're doing acupuncture, you should only do that and do nothing else. Or if you're having a healing session, you should only do that specific type of healing and not mix it with anything else. I think it's an individual choice, right? You will know how you feel once you dive into some of these things and check them out. And if it feels right, do it. And if it doesn't, don't. I think it's that simple.
So I usually tell people, if you're taking the holistic path, you'll know you're on the right path. Your practitioner says, yes, try as much as you can, because none of us truly need the credit. All we want is for you to get to where you want to get to. We're not looking for the credit. So I don't care if it was what I did or the chiropractor did or the yoga instructor did that made you feel better. We just know the combination of that got you to where you wanted to go to. It's not about looking for, well, see, I told you my way was the only way you could do this, and the way you could accomplish this and the way you could heal. It's by using that combination and knowing that, your team that you put together, whether it's your Western medical team or your holistic team, that truly is your support staff, and not looking for credit for anything they did other than wanting you to feel your best and heal, because that's what your whole team is supposed to be there for, and that's the only thing they're supposed to be there for.
So true. And what I'm really excited to see is that more and more practitioners in Western medicine are open to some of these ancient healing wisdoms. And the integration of the two and integrative medicine is becoming more prevalent. And I am really excited to see it become even more so that more people have, options and the opportunity to activate their own healing and to explore things that will really work for them. I mean, if we look at allopathy as a whole and the training that doctors go through when we're looking at traditional medicine, um, they only get maybe a week's worth of nutritional education, right? And we all know that eating healthy is a big factor in being healthy. And so if a person is in charge of your healthcare, but they're not even sure how to eat healthy on their own and haven't been taught any of that, it's kind of a concern for me. And, I don't have a magic wand to wave over the curriculum that doctors are given when they go to medical school. But if I did have that magic wand, I would be making sure that nutrition and also a segment on integrative care with some of these modalities that we've been talking about was included so that there's awareness. Because here's the thing, knowledge is power. If we don't know about something, we can't share about it. So if you haven't had any training on nutrition, then you're not going to know about it. And, full transparency, this is not judgment. This is simply, I had to learn about it too. I had to make big, hard choices and some of my favorite foods and things that I really enjoyed and not do them and change and reset and dig into research as to why does that matter? Oh, really? Okay. So really there's specific fruits and vegetables that can help to regenerate specific organs. There's so much information. I mean, there's really not a lack of information, which is why I compiled as much as I possibly could in the book to help others. And that's why, Neil Donald Walsh it did the afterword to the book, and Dr. Joe Vitale did the foreword. And Neil said, "This, I've never seen anything like this. This is truly a reference guide." And he thanked me for doing all the research so others didn't have to. And now I'm kind of a bit of a research addict in a sense. I'm learning all of these new things. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to learn. And I always approach everything with curiosity. In fact, the values for spiritual sugar are faith, curiosity, self-care, health, and wealth. And when I talk about wealth, it doesn't mean massive amounts of money. It means really just being abundant and grateful for what you have in your life. That is, I mean, the fact that we can drink clean water and that we can breathe clean air is makes me feel very wealthy anyway, because there's so many people that can't even turn on a tap and get clean water, right? There's so many different ways that we are really blessed and set up for success when we choose to tap into our own healing abilities.
Right. And it goes beyond healing too. It can go just to feeling better. So through hypnotherapy, obviously when somebody is going through this, we want to deal with the mental stress and the fear. But also that, my feeling is that people shouldn't have to deal with these side effects of a lot of treatments they receive for, whatever disease they've been diagnosed with. And it's through your mind that you can change any aspect of what you're feeling. I'm not saying that in one or two or three or even four sessions, I can make somebody's feel no effect by some of these treatments they get or feel no pain, but you can at least significantly reduce it to the fact where it's not life controlling. Because the truth is, all of those sensations, whether it's pain, um, just the lack of feeling drained, um, if you are going through cancer treatments and have the nausea, the other things that come along with that, while we think we feel them in the body, all those sensations are created in the mind. The body's just sending transmissions to your mind. It's like, I tell a lot of people with chemotherapy, there's nothing in your stomach. There's no reason for you to feel nauseous other than the nocebo effect you've been told you probably will. Um, but your body just sent these neurotransmitters up to your brain, and your mind picked those transmissions up and said, well, okay, I got to do something with this to try and warn you. It's a warning signal. It thinks it's doing the right thing by sending these sensations down to your body. Just like pain is a warning signal. Hey, something's wrong here. You need to pay attention to this area. But and I'm very careful with pain. I'll never remove pain unless I know that, the source of that pain's been identified because it can serve a purpose. So I don't want to work with somebody to remove a pain when that area hasn't been looked at to know if there's something that needs to be addressed there. But if it's pain from what somebody's going through, it has been diagnosed, you can absolutely learn to turn that pain completely off over time. I can usually just yesterday I had a young woman in, and she told me, the pain in her hands was from some autoimmune disease, was at like a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, which is pretty significant to be in your hands. I mean, so we did a quick session, brought her out of the first session or the hypnosis, asked her where she was at, and she's like, well, I'm down to a 2. That's better. I said, no, that's not good enough. So let's go back under. Hypnotized her again and was able to get that down to a 0 through just guiding her own imagination and using her imagination to see that pain leaving her body. But literally, we went from a 6 or 7 down to a 0 within 10 minutes of time, because once you learn how to activate those things within yourself and how to take control of those signals coming into your mind, you can literally change any sensation or anything you're dealing with physically based on just how you direct your mind to deal with those things. And again, you know, um, my modality, hypnotherapy, isn't the only one that can do that. And in fact, mixing that with tapping or with acupuncture or yoga or whatever other modality you can find to use can have this compounding effect where, you know, maybe you work with me for a week and maybe the pain's gone for 4 or 5 days, but then it starts trying to fight its way back in because that's sometimes what it does, because your mind's saying, hey, we still got a problem here. So what do we do with it? But by using these other modalities, you can really make that a permanent change. And even people with chronic pain can have that pain gone because, they say that any pain that lasts longer than about 6 months is emotionally based. It's not physically based. So we can usually turn that off completely. But that's why I really want to do these, just to bring in the concept of using additional modalities in addition to what I do with help directing the mind and putting it on not only the path to healing, but getting rid of any past traumas or just making you feel the best or, um, just working to, once this is all behind you, working with you on build that confidence back up and feeling the best and living your best life. But like I said, I'm a big believer that the more we can bring in additional viewpoints to this, and especially with people that have gone through something significant in life, and we're able to use the power of their mind to get them back to a place of healing is so important because it brings a perspective that I can't bring because I've never been diagnosed with something that I can sit here and say, this is how I got through it all. So the more I just want to bring in more people that can give you those stories to just kind of remind you that you don't have to rely on just one mindset or one way of thinking, that you can really expand your horizons and really improve the outcomes you get no matter what you're dealing with.
That's just so important. And it is a very different perspective. When you face mortality, everything for you does change. I can tell you that. I'm definitely not the same person that I was prior to diagnosis. It's truly though been a gift. I believe it's been an absolute gift. And I look at any diagnosis as an opportunity to heal. And I think if we can flip that script and really focus on that we are ahead of the healing game already, right? Because usually we just get freaked out and it's so easy to do. And then especially if we start, being Google doctors and Googling everything. And I mean, I've been guilty of that. I'm like, oh, I think I'm gonna die. Oh my gosh, It's
Everybody
like
has, everybody's done that at some point.
yeah, and I'm like, no, wait, no, I'm not. That's just let's feed the psyche with positive food and positive modalities and things that really can truly help. Um, and again, we have to really be our own advocates in these situations. Had I only spoken to people within Western medicine, I would not be here today still. It's a really frightening thing for me to think about, and it sometimes actually does keep me up at night because I wish that there was some way we could change that. I wish that there was a way that we could really bring everyone together on the same page to have the same knowledge. And it's not that I feel like Western medicine is being vindictive or anything like that. I want to be very clear about that. I just feel like it's a lack of information, it's a lack of knowledge. And I think there's some curriculum and training that could really benefit the whole Western medical industrial complex. And unfortunately, I don't get to make those rules because I guess I'm just not in charge of that. So
Neither am I, unfortunately, but I think we're all making progress in that direction, slowly, slower than it should be, but we are making some progress, I feel like, in opening up additional ways of looking at some of these things. Does anybody have any questions?
don't be shy. You have to unmute yourself though.
Or throw it in the chat section as
Oh yeah,
well.
I do see some things happening.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to process this video so that we can put it up on the website. And then if you want to replay it or you want to reach out to me or Lisa, I'll have links to both her book at the end of the video that I put up online, as well as link to me if you want to explore hypnotherapy and how that can help you um, make a change in just about any area of your life. Truly, I've worked with people on just about anything you can imagine through hypnotherapy or neurolinguistic programming, and really just seen some amazing transformations. You know, everything from helping people going through this to fears and phobias when somebody's gone to a psychiatrist or a counselor for years and years and years and had this phobia and this fear hanging over them, and then 1 hour later it's gone. So it's amazing what you can do on the subconscious level. So don't just think that what I do, or that Lisa's just talking about cancer. She's literally talking about healing in so many different ways, and hypnotherapy can help people in so many different ways. And if you're not sure, just reach out, and if I don't feel like it's something that I can help with, I'll be the first one to tell you, because I don't want you to screw up my success rate.
I love that. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today, Tim. I'm so grateful for you and what you do and for our connection, and that we just have such similar philosophies on empowering others to heal. And I can't wait to send more people your way. And I really need to also probably do some more work with you, because I'd like to be able to turn that pain off instantaneously whenever I have it. And because we all have aches and pains and things that come up, and I have not perfected that yet. So the other thing, I guess a good reminder is that oftentimes a lot of these modalities are not one and done. It's something you have to put into practice. It might take several sessions. It might take a little bit. You'll be the best judge of that. And when you have the right guidance and the right practitioners, then you'll be getting the support that you need.
Absolutely. You're very welcome, Donna. Donna was one of my clients that we got through her chemo
Wonderful. Yay.
pretty easily. So,
Congratulations.
um, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Like I said, I'll have this up and I'll have a link on my website, and I'll also put it on my Facebook page and link to Lisa as well. So if you haven't got her book, I would definitely recommend, if you're doing any type of healing, to jump on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, go to her website, grab her book, because knowledge is power. So we want to have as much of that as we can. And then yeah, and then if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to reach out and we'll take it from there. But thank you guys so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.